Hi, I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, a former anxious empath turned mostly grounded psychotherapist, intuitive guide, and energy healer, and this is Into the Work. And it isn't just a podcast, it's your actual invitation to break free from old patterns, end the cycle of your self-abandonment, and finally step into the life your soul has been craving. Each episode is a spark to help you rise higher, to help you shine brighter and reclaim the truth of who you really are. The spark has already been lit. And sister, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's go ignite a fire. Hi, welcome back to Into the Work. Today, we are talking about harnessing your soul-aligned authority. And as we're jumping into this, I want you to just take these words in. You are not just here to learn, how can I take up more space? You are here to embrace the fact that you are the space. You are the energy already. You are the field. You are the container through which light and love and purpose move into the world. You're the vessel. But somewhere along the way, many of us forgot that. We started trying to earn what was already ours, right? It's possible, I'm guessing, that you were like me and you had to learn how to earn the space to share your voice, your truth, your presence. And, right, you've forgotten that you already are those things. It's not something to earn. And that forgetting, that's what today's episode is all about. We're talking about soul-aligned authority, what it is, how we lose it, and how you can reclaim it. So what is soul-aligned authority? So authority is a word that can feel heavy, right? A lot of us have like a bro mentality around it, like it can remind us of control and power struggle or ego. But soul-aligned authority is something entirely different. It's not about dominance or even being the expert. It's about embodiment. It's that deep knowing that your truth, your intuition, your energy are inherently valid, that you don't need to prove them at all. Like you don't need to prove anything to anybody. That's literally a mantra that I used for a while. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. When you stand in your soul authority, your presence leads before your words do. I know you've met people like this. You know, when you are standing in this type of authority, people can feel your groundedness, your integrity, your alignment. It's not about being loud. It's about being clear. And it's not about taking charge. It's more about taking root. Soul-aligned authority is the moment you stop waiting for permission to lead, to speak, to create, or even the time to rest. You don't need permission for that. It's the quiet confidence that does say that my light belongs here, not because I earned it, but because I am it, and therefore it is, and I get to take up the space with it. So what it looks like to be soul aligned. When you're living in this frequency, okay, because it is a frequency. Like it's a frequency. You make intuitive decisions. You set boundaries that reflect your worth, certainly not your fear. You lead from presence rather than performance. You allow yourself to be seen fully without betraying who you are. There's a real calm power to it, a grounded certainty that says, I trust myself to know that I trust myself enough to let life move through me. I don't have to constrict and perform and prove any of it. Like I can just allow it to all happen. And actually, this made me think of a little story to share. When I used to work at WPI, this is an engineering college in Massachusetts, and I was the associate director of the counseling center there. And we did a lot of really amazing things there. It was such a beautiful, incredible time of my life. I loved that job. And I loved the people that I worked with. And we got to get out and do all sorts of things that felt like we were really making a difference. We did a lot of presenting and teaching out with our students, but also with our faculty. And at a particular retreat for faculty, I was asked to talk to faculty about a particular topic. And so I did my thing. I got myself all revved up and I went out there and I did the thing. I spoke on the topic. I can't even remember now what it was. We did do stuff on, I was a go-to person for sexual assault on campus. And so I used to do a lot around that topic and how to, especially for kids going abroad and how to show up for that. However, I'm not sure what the topic was, but what I do remember very clearly was after I did the whole thing, it was a lunch break. And so we all broke and I went off to make my salad or whatever. And there were a couple people that came up to me afterwards and thanked me and they, thank you, blah, blah, blah. But that's not even what you remember, right? What I remember is the one guy that came up to me. And he just kind of had his glasses down his nose a little bit. And he kind of tilted his head and came up to me and looked me dead in the eye. And he said, intelligent speakers speak slowly and therefore they appear thoughtful. You may want to consider this. And then he walked away. I was like, oh, okay. I think before he walked away, I said, oh, okay, great. Thank you for that feedback. But, he wasn't wrong. I understand this now because when I was up there giving my whole spiel on whatever I was talking about, I was likely performing, right? I was not standing in the frequency of my message. And I've changed and grown a lot. And I now get what he's talking about, and I truly do believe that starting this podcast actually has taught me so much about this and how important it is for women particularly to hold the frequency of authority, to learn how to stand in that authority and hold the space for it. And sometimes that does mean speaking slowly. Now, I thought that what was a little obnoxious about his message was, that he was telling me that I should appear more thoughtful. And so that was obnoxious, right? Like that was ego and, and what's why I could be better for him and he could have enjoyed me more. I'm not an ornament, that whole thing. And so, at first I was like a little miffed, but I get the message in it. And I thought about that. I haven't thought about that in years and years and years, but I thought about that. And I think there's some truth to it, right? There really is. And that is because it's a frequency thing. Standing in your authority is holding that frequency. If you're sharing a message, then you're holding that message in your body. And that's how we call it an embodiment. So let's look at how women lose their authority. And I'm going to highlight burnout. So hear me out. Let's talk about this. Let's identify where this authority gets lost because most of us don't realize it's happened until we're already running on fumes. Women, especially empathic women, light workers, all my people, probably you who are listening, are taught from a young age to source our value from doing, achieving, helping, fixing. That is like at our core. And I think we probably signed up for it as we came down here, right? We signed up for that task because of the fact that we are healers in our soul and in our codes and who we are here to express, right? And when that becomes, and we have to learn this lesson. So we get, assigned these things in our culture that we chose and what family we chose and all that. And when that becomes the pattern that, you're sourcing your value from doing, achieving, helping, and fixing, burnout is almost inevitable. Burnout happens when your soul whispers rest and your mind screams, keep going. This is like my constant, right? This is always going to be the thing I'm trying to learn to manage. But it's when you've learned to earn your right to exist through efforting, burnout happens. I see it. I've been a therapist for 20 years. I'm still currently sitting in the seat as a therapist, and my clients weekly, so many of them, most of them are talking about this on some level. They feel the responsibility to caretake everyone. They feel responsibility to prove themselves for achieving and helping or fixing and doing all of that. I'm sure it resonates on some level. And in that cycle, we trade our soul alignment for survival here in this culture, in this family, in this world that we've created. So we overgive and we overthink and we overextend. And little by little, we lose touch with the deep, anchored knowing that says, I am enough simply because I am. When you're burned out, your intuition can't get through that static. You don't have the life force energy for it. You forget what your true yes feels like, and everything starts to sound like an obligation. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me, where I start rolling my eyes at being asked to do something that I'm like, you know what, I actually really enjoy and love. And what's happening here? That is a big red flag. I think that we hit a spiritual crisis for many of us women. And I think that spiritual crisis is about forgetting who we are. There's a spiritual layer to this, a deeper crisis that many of us face when we outgrow these old identities. So we start to identify with the roles that we've held. For instance, I'm a therapist, I'm a healer, I'm a mother, I'm actually even a coach, I guess, right? I'm a friend. And in the process of all your roles that you hold, you lose sight of the soul beneath the roles, right? Who you are underneath it all. We forget that we were never just here to perform a function. We were here to become. And I think we were here to remember, really. I think the becoming comes from remembering. And for many women, there's an ancestral echo in that forgetting. A lineage of women behind us, silenced, dismissed, punished for their wisdom. And I've talked a couple episodes about this. I did a couple episodes, about 2 episodes ago, on this ancestral ties that shape us. So we can start to rise. And when we do, it can feel scary. It can feel unsafe to be seen, to speak our truth, to claim space. But this discomfort is not a setback. Think of it as an initiation. It's your soul asking you to remember who you are, to remember what you came here to do, to remember the parts of yourself you have left behind, the wild, the wise, the intuitive, the unapologetic parts that are waiting for you to return. When I think of this, right, I have to share. When I think of this, I think back to when I was 5 years old. When I was 5, I think actually even before that, 3, 4, 5, I was the bossiest little kid. I was so freaking bossy. I had all my friends were boys just because most of the kids in the neighborhood, in the area that I was in, were boys. And so I would be hanging out with them all day, bossing them around, telling them where to go, what to do. I think I even slapped one across the face when they didn't do what I wanted them to do. That's how the story goes. Not a proud moment, but I was 5. So my point is that bossy girl was she was erased. By the time I got to probably middle school age, that went away. And this reminds me of that book, Reviving Ophelia. And, that young girl who I was spicy, wild. She spent her day in the woods climbing trees. She was very intuitive, always. She actually talked to the dead. And I had a lot of unapologetic parts. I screamed and melted down a lot, but additionally, there were a lot of parts to me that were very, very wild and true to who I am in my core essence. And she was erased. And then the people pleaser came in, and being a good girl came in, and being liked came in, and, dressing the right way and expressing myself the right way and fitting in and all those things that happen to all of us, right? They all start to shape, and we do forget parts of ourselves. And so I just want to share that story. I'm sure that you have one too, where, you can see parts of yourself that dimmed as you began to grow up. And I think it's an important part of our process to kind of own it. So let's talk about reclaiming and harnessing your soul-aligned authority. So how do we come back into alignment with our authority? First, we slow down enough to listen. because authority begins with presence, with feeling your truth in your body. Like when I was up there talking and that guy basically told me that I needed to slow down and be thoughtful and own what I was saying, I think that that's that same message here, right? Slow down, get present, feel your truth of what you want to put out there in your body. Know that when you do that, you can sit in any seat, you can take up any amount of space, you can do the thing that you want to do. But it's part of your authority really begins with your presence. So ground. And us empaths and light workers, a lot of us, we need to ground like it is like we are training for the Olympics. Okay, so grounding every day to help yourself get back into your authority. Then we protect it with boundaries. Boundaries, as you know, I scream from the rooftops, are not barriers. They are beautiful containers that keep your light from burning out. They are the sacred structure that lets your spark become that steady flame. That is your authority, the flame. And so if you don't have boundaries and you aren't working on them currently anyway, you can't hold yourself the same way. You will leak energy. And remember, this is a frequency. This is you walking into a room holding the frequency. And if you don't have boundaries, you just can't hold that frequency. It leaks. Next, we rebuild self-trust. Every time you follow your intuition and survive the outcome, right? You build evidence that you can trust yourself again. That evidence is crucial. So when you are spinning in indecision and all those things, if you can get the presence, create the boundary, and then start to work on your self-trust, your knowing, tap into your knowing, tap into yourself. And finally, we need to remember that your authority isn't something you need to find. It's something you need to stop abandoning. Okay, that's the difference. It is not something you need to find per se. It's something you need to stop abandoning. And that's why being present and having boundaries is going to help you see that your authority is there. You were just giving it away. You were cutting it back, pushing it down. And so it's a beautiful thing when you start to realize and remember, oh, this is right here. So let's have a little quick exercise here. I want you to just take a deep breath, and I want you just to drop some of that energy into your belly. And then you can let it keep dropping down into your feet too. And I want you to just feel into the space behind your heart. That still point where your authority truly lives. And imagine this golden light swirling back there. So I will end here. Thank you, as always, for being a listener. It means so much to me, and I'm sending so much love to you right now. And I am really looking forward to talking to you again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It is the best way to spread this healing work to other women. Your presence here matters. Step into your power, heal your soul, and rise with women who are doing the same. Keep joining us every week, and together we can heal the world. If you're ready to dive deeper, grab your free Shadow Work Transformation Bundle in the show notes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.